Mr. Mnisi, are you fit to proceed?
As it please the court, my lord, thank you for the indulgence. I'm feeling much better now.
Okay.
Thank you. As it please the court, my lord. Yesterday, I referred to a number of statements, my lord. I think some of which were already handed in as exhibits, particularly the one that I referred to of Ms. Zandi Kumalo. Now, the one that I referred to as statement number A113, the one that was penned by Longetwala, I did not request, my lord, that it be handed in as an exhibit, as well as the one that is numbered A57. It also slipped my mind that I should request that it be handed in an exhibit. May I therefore, with the leave of court, my lord, request that both statements be handed in as exhibits. The last statement, my lord, that I requested that it be handed in, I think it was Makumalo's statement, and it was Mark Triple V. Now, the first statement of Mr. Longetwala, Mark A113, I'm going to request that it should be marked. I don't know whether we're following Triple V, STUVX. Then we're going to mark it as triple X.
W, I think that will be triple W1. There's also the statement A9. I don't know whether it's not being headed up of long way.
Yes, my lords. A9 as well, yes. Let's start with A9.
Triple W1.
Oh, okay. Triple W1. A9, my lord, will then be marked triple W1. And then A11. Okay, let's go to A51. A57. 57 be marked as triple W2. And A113 be marked triple W in brackets 3, my lord. No, 106, it's I think it's a duplication of 113. Thank you, my lord. Sit please the court, my lord. Brigadier, yesterday, good morning, good morning.
Good morning, Advocate Minister.
Thank you. Before we adjourned, there was a question that I posed, and the court wanted to clarify whether do I then request that you give an opinion in that regard. The question.
Isolo singahlukanike khona umbuzo engubuzile lapho enkantolo eveze ukuthi mina ngicela ukuthi ulibeke umbono wakho ngalokho.
Let me quickly go back to the question just to check your mind. The question was to the following effect.
Nawo ke umbuzo wami.
Now, in view of, I actually wanted to know what would then be the relevance of your testimony in saying that, actually in bringing that kind of testimony before court, where you said that there were pictures that were found in the downloads of accused number 3's phone, as well as Longwe Twala's phone and Kelly's phone. So, the gist of my question was, what was the relevance of that testimony of yours? That is
Manje lobufakazi babumelana nani lobufakazi bokuthi ke unathola izithombe efonini kamsolwa nefonini kaLongwe nefoni kaKelly Khumalo.
similar pictures.
Izithombe ezifana nayo.
Yes.
My Lord, as the statement indicates, it was to show the linkages, that there's linkages, or rather similar pictures as Advocate Mnisi says. That was the essence of it.
Cha ukuthi befuna ukukhombisa ukuthi khona ukuxhumana nokuthi khona izithombe ezingathi ziyafanana.
Now, are you then saying there could have been a leakage just simply because on the similarity of those photos? You're then saying that there could have been a linkage between Kelly Khumalo and accused number 3 and Longwe Twala, and there was also a linkage between Longwe Twala, Kelly Khumalo, and accused number 3. Is that what you're saying?
Manje kusho ukuthi kukhona yini ngaloko ukuthi khona izithombe engathi ziyafanana uchaza ukuthi kusho ukuthi khona ukuxhumana phakathi ka umsola wesithathu noLongwe Twala noKelly Khumalo.
My Lord, the court will recall that I said this was guided by the expert. This is now Colonel Steyn, who informed me and then thereafter then showed me such in his affidavit. So I was moving in that precinct. He's the expert in this area, and that's what he established and then communicated to me, which then I utilized in my investigation when I applied for the warrants. I think it appears in a number of statements, such linkages, my Lord.
Hayi lokho ke phela sasiholwa Colonel Steyn uchwepheshe oyena ko wayengisiza ke ilokho agcina ke kusisizile ukuthi sifune nokukhipha namawarrant wakuyena owawuchwepheshe ngalokho.
Thank you. That being the case, as an investigating officer, would you then say, as an investigating officer, would you then say that that information that you got from Colonel Steyn as you analyze the evidence, that evidence indicates, therefore, that accused number 3 was complicit in the commission of these offenses that is facing today?
Manje usho ukuthi lokho kuthole kuColonel Steyn ikona kwaholela ukuthi uthi umsolo wesithathu uyathinteka kuleli cala.
No, what I think, my Lord, indicates the suspicion of the involvement of accused 3 is the issues that I've dealt with. I've indicated, my Lord, the issues of the firearm, the issues of the dreadlocks, the issue of the clothing, without repeating. These related really to linkages, my Lord. Because the court will recall, my Lord, after the statement of these accused 1 and 2 were obtained, where, and I've said this, my Lord, Miss Kelly Khumalo was identified as a trigger point. One needed to investigate the linkages, whether you can confirm, you can corroborate what is being said by objective evidence. So this is one of the pieces of evidence that we found in terms of this bag of money that is appearing between her and accused number 3, my lord.
Lezi thombe lezi njengoba besingichazile besichaza ukuthi umsolo wesithathu yena ukhulumana kanjani nalabanye ngoba bengithela ukukhulumana kuyabonakala ukuthi uyena wasusa yonke lento manje okusho ukuthi besifuna ukuzama ukukhombisa ukuthi baqhumana kanjani nalabo abanye nomsolo wesithathu.
So do I then understand you to say that despite those pictures being found in Kelly Khumalo's phone, similar pictures being found in Kelly Khumalo's phone, accused number 3's phone, and Longwetwala's phone, that was just for purposes of investigation?
Manje usho ukuthi ke utholakala lezi thombe efonini ka umsolo wesithathu efonini ka Kelly Khumalo nekalongwetwala bekudingeka nje ukuthi nikwazi ukuphenya.
My lord, investigation, as I've said yesterday, is a systematic way of finding the truth. That's what I was busy with at that stage, and that's what we found. And so are the other things that we discovered. So it was discovered during the investigation process, and the interest that sparked that desire or that interest to pursue that investigation was triggered by the confessions which were made by accused 1 and 2, where Miss Khumalo, was then mentioned. Now, when her name is being mentioned, and it seems to be indicating that there is a communication between Ms. Khumalo and the perpetrators, as I've said, my lord, you need to corroborate that evidence, and that is where now the search embarked on, and these discoveries were then discovered, my lord. So it was not just an exercise that had no direction. It was to corroborate and find evidence if indeed it does exist.
Uphenya indlela ehlelekile yokuzama ukuthola ulwazi oluthize futhi ke ukutholakala kwalezi thombe kwalezi zinto lezi kusuka lapha ekutheni sathi kwaphuma phela ukwamukela icala ngomsolo weqala nowesibili sifanele sihlole ukuthi lokhu kusiholaphi ngoba ekwamukeleni kwabecala baliveza igama lika Kelly Khumalo manje sifanele sitholisise kahle ukuthi manje uKelly Khumalo uxhumana kanjani nomsolo wesithathu. Yikho ke manje bese sifuna ukuthi siveze sithole izinto ezisizayo ukuthi sikwazi ukuthi sibekise kahle ukuthi baxhumana kanjani.
Now, let me put it this way, sir. In view of your explanation now, did you ever find a link between accused number 3 and Longwetwala in view of those photos?
Manje lezi thombe zayingisiza yini ukuthi nikwazi ukubona ukuthi baqhumana kanjani umsolo wesithathu noLongwetwala?
My lord, as I've explained, the linkages, the investigation of cell phones was led by Colonel Steyn, and according to his report and what he told me when I said the report, is that there was a linkages between the 3 in terms of these photos. This is Longwetwala, accused 3, and Miss Kelly Khumalo. That's what was communicated to me, my lord.
Manje njengoba besengishilo ke uKolonel Steyn uyena ke uchwepheshe okahlaziya konke lokho akuphuma lapha emafonini uyena okwazi ukuthi agcine esizele ukuthi sibone ukuthi khona ukuxhumana phakathi umsolo wesithathu noLongwetwala noKelly Khumalo.
Thank you. Colonel Steyn came and testify here, but according to you, he told you that as a result of similar photos being found in the cell phone gadgets of these 3 people, then that proves linkage. Did he tell you how did that linkage happen? How except for the phones being found in their cell phones, similar photos being found in their cell phones, how did this linkage happen?
Manje uKolonel Steyn wangichazela ukuthi ngaphandle kwalezi thombe ezatholakala emafonini abo esifanayo wangichazela ukuthi lokuxhumana kwakwenzeka kanjani.
No, my lord. He's an expert in his field. It's the same as you when you get a report from a ballistic expert. If he says there's a link, I can't say he must show me all the margins because I'm not an expert. Same with the fingerprint expert. You look for the results of their findings. So Colonel Steyn explained to me that there's a link and it is included in his statement, and I couldn't take it further than that. I don't think, my lord, I had even expertise to actually ask him to take me through the details of it, my lord.
Cha uKensteyn uyena uchwepheshe nanoma esinikele umbiko kodwa ke akukho ukuthi umembikele kufanele ngibuze konke ngalombiko wakho ukuthi lokhu nalokhu kuhlangana kanjani. Mina ngithathe nje lokho ayengibikela kona ukuthi kukhona ukuxhumana. Kuyafana nokuthi ochwepheshe ngokuhlola inhlamvu zebhama ngimbuza bese nginika umbiko ukuthi manje lo mugqa lona usho ukuthini la mugqa lona usho ukuthini unginika nje umbiko uzokwazi ukuthi ungisize emsebenzini wami. So ke abengadingi ukuthi angitshele konke lokho anginike kona ukuthi kukhona ukuxhumana bekulingene.
So I'm simply saying, my lord, I think Steyn, he'll be in a better position to explain those links because he's an expert, my lord.
Engishoyo ukuthi uKensteyn uyena ongaba ngcono ukuthi alethe incazelo engcono ethe ukuthi qaqa kancane ngoba uyena uchwepheshe kulokho.
Thank you. I recall that there was a point when you were requested by the court to read into record Colonel Steyn's affidavit that was subsequent to me asking you. Actually, that was subsequent to you having said that Colonel Steyn told you that there was a link between accused number 3 and Kelly Khumalo. Then I think I then objected. I'm just trying to give a background of that situation. I then objected, but then the court, in his discretion, then requested you to go to that specific aspect of the affidavit where Colonel Steyn says that there's a linkage between accused number 3 and Kelly Khumalo. Do you still remember that scenario?
Sakhumbula yena ukuthi wacela ukuthi ufunde i-affidavit kaKenneth Steyn le echaza ukuthi kukhona ukuxhumana phakathi umsolo wesithathu noKelly Khumalo. Inkantolo ke yagcina ke isithe hamba uye lapho kule lapho kubhalwe khona la kubonakala khona ukuthi ubhale echaza ukuthi kukhona lokuxhumana phakathi kwalabo ababili.
I do recall, my lord.
Yebo ngiyakhumbula.
Thank you. Now, the gist of that scenario was that you had mentioned that there was a communication between Kelly Khumalo and accused number 3, and that was on record. I just not so sure whether I brought that record. Let me just read it. May I be afforded an indulgence, but just to quickly look it up. Thank you. Yes. On the 8th of November 2024, when you were being cross-examined by Mr. Ramusipili, it was in the cross-examination of Mr. Ramusipili. This is what you said. I'm going to start to read from page 68. the transcribed record of the 8th of November 2024. I'm reading it from line 20, page 68. From line 20, page 68. This is what is happening. A question that came from Mr. Ramusipili, otherwise advocates evidence. Then the court comes in and says, wait, I do not understand. You are asking a question. You are obliged to answer the question pertaining to your investigation. Then Mr. Gininda, that's now yourself, yes, my lord. Then the court said, that is it, as you conducted it, so that the court can appreciate too. You cannot tell me that you disclose this piece of evidence, but you will not disclose this piece of evidence. What should I do about the rest of your evidence then? Then yourself, being Mr. Gininda, then respond. You say, I understand, my lord. My lord. So the other aspect that I did not touch on is that there is the report that I got, and it is contained in one of Colonel Steyn's statements. There's a link between, let me say, communication between Ms. Kelly Khumalo and accused number 3. In a nutshell, I just do not know how Colonel Steyn phrased it, but he established a link between accused 3 and Kelly Khumalo other than accused number 5. Then, Mr. Ramusipili, let us go to, and then myself, as it pleases the court, my lord, yeah. This is not an objection. That's now me saying that. This is not an objection, man. It is just a clarification. So the information relate, I need to understand it correct. So what Brigadier Gininda is saying there, the further information that is not disclosed to the court as per the indistinct, it is that the statement of Steyn actually says that there was a link between accused 3 and Kelly Khumalo. That is the information that I need, that it need not be disclosed to court, according to him. I just want to follow that statement. Then the court says, are you able to explain, sir? And then you yourself are saying, yes, my lord. What I can explain is that a statement that I saw, and if it needs be, we can get into it, and I can read it verbatim. There is the statement of Colonel Steyn links accused number 3 with Ms. Kelly Khumalo. That is the essence of it. As to how he puts these terms, that is the part that I do not want to misquote him. But what is clear is that there's a link with Ms. Kelly Khumalo and accused number 3. Do you now follow?
My lord,
I'm sorry, maybe I need to give you this for an interpretation.
I think it can help.
Yes. I'm sorry, madam. Let me just indicate where I started. Sorry? I just want to show where I started. I started line 20, and then I ended here, page 70, from 68 to page 7. Yeah, I started here, and then I ended up here. Yeah. As it is the court, madam.
Kuthiwa ke lana ke uthi ke ubaba Ramusipili ufakazi balomunye uadvocate inkantolo ke yasithi awumaume kancane khona into engingayizwisisi la ubuze umbuzo kufanele ukuthi uphendule umbuzo mayelana nophenyo lwakho. Useyaphendula ke uGininda uthi yebo nkosi enkantolo. Emva kwaloko inkantolo yasithi yebo ilokho ukuthi wena wakhambisa kanjani ukuze inkantolo izozwisisa nayo ukuthi ubuchaza ukuthini. Awukazi ukungitshela ukuthi kukhona lokho ofuna ukuveza phambi kwenkantolo kodwa kukhona lo obunye ubufakazi ongafuna ukuveza phambi kwenkantolo manje kufanele ngenzeni-ke ngalobo obunye ubufakazi bakho Gininda wasethi ngiyakuzwisisa nkosenkantolo kodwa-ke kukhona-ke ezinye izinto engingazithintanga kuleyo mbiko leyo engiwutholile lokho kukhona lapha embikweni kaColonel Steyn statementini sakhe kukhona-ke lapho ethi khona kukhona ukuxhumana phakathi kaKelly Khumalo nomsolo wesithathu usho ukuthi-ke kafushane-ke angazi ukuthi uColonel Steyn wayibeka kanjani kodwa-ke wakwazi ukuthi abeke ukuthi kukhona ukuxhumana phakathi komsolo wesithathu noKelly Khumalo kusho ukuthi-ke nanoma-ke singamfaki lapho umsola wesihlanu kuqhubeke lapho wathi-ke asithi uqhubeke phambili wathi uxolo kukhuluma ubaba Ramsipidi la and then ubaba Mnisi wasethi-ke hhayi-ke njengoba ithanda inkantolo ukuqhubekela phambili inkantolo yasiyabuza ukuthi uthini emva kwalo ubaba Mnisi usethi-ke cha angifuni ukuphikisa bengifuna nje ukuthi kube nencazelo ezwakalayo ukuthi-ke kukhona ulwazi olwadluliswa ngifuna ukuzwisisa kona lokho ukuze uBrigadier Gininda lokakushoyo ukuthi kukhona ulwazi olunye oluqhubekela phambili olungazange luvezwe enkantolo manje lapho kuyabonakala ukuthi achaza ukuthi kusho ngani kuthiwa-ke maqhubekela phambili ithi-ke ilesi statement sika Steyn esishoyo ukuthi kukhona ukuxhumana phakathi kukamsolo wesithathu noKelly Khumalo lolo ulwazi esifanele lulethwe la enkantolo njengoba-ke yena-ke echazile ngifuna ukulandelisisa kahle i-statement ukuthi sisho ukuthini umnkosi yenkantolo siyabuza-ke ithi uyakwazi ukuchaza yini lokho Brigadier Gininda usiyaphendula uthi yebo nkosi yenkantolo engingakuchaza nje ukuthi i-statement leso ngasibona futhi-ke uma kuwukuthi kuyadingeka singaye sotholakala lesi statement ngaphinde futhi ngisifunde kusho ukuthi ngisho i-statement sika-Colonel Steyn lapho-ke siqhuma khona umsolo wesithathu noKelly Khumalo yikona-ke nje ngifuna ukuchaza lokho and ukuthi-ke wena wabeka kanjani lapha estatementini sakhe okunye kwalokho engingakwazi ukuthi engingafisa ukuthi ngingakubeki ngendlela ezophikisana nale ndlela ayibeke ngayo yena kodwa-ke okukhona ukuthi-ke kukhona ukuxhumana phakathi kaKelly Khumalo nomsolo wesithathu. Is the court pleases.
My Lord, I think the record says exactly what I've been saying. It simply says that I've said there is a link, not a communication. I think where we seems to not to be finding each other with Advocate Mnisi is when he uses the term linkages. Communication instead of linkages. And I've explained this again, my Lord, yesterday, where I said, when we came to this exercise, it was arising from the questions that were coming from Mr. Ramsipili, where he was taking me through my statements. And when you go to the paragraph where I said there is a link between Ms. Kelly Khumalo and accused 3 and 5, he then asked me specifically, what linkages are you talking about? Not communication, linkages. And it arises from all the way down, my Lord. So I've always said that it's linkages. And the exercise that we embarked upon on the statement of Colonel Steyn on page 41 proves exactly that, my Lord, because it says link between targets. Ms. Kelly Khumalo is there, but then there are various people that are there, including accused number 3, my Lord.
Ebengizama ukuchaza kuyabonakala lapha kulesa lokusanda ukufundwa kahle ukuthi mina ngithe kukhona ukuxhumana angishongo ukuthi kukhona ukukhulumisana engikushoyo ukuthi kukhona nje ukuxhumana kuyabonakala ngoba ngaso sonke isikhathi mina mangikhuluma ngokuxhumana kuyakubekeke sengathi kuthiwa bekukhona ukukhulumisana into nje ebengichaza eyokuxhumana kungekona ukukhulumisana.
Thank you. I think it was a question of semantics. Now that you have explained it, it comes out very clear. that it is basically a huge difference between communication and a link. You also mentioning that you were trying to explain that through the information that is contained on page 41 of Lieutenant Colonel Steyn. I would love us to go there. That is Exhibit 01.
Well, I don't have Exhibit 01, my lord.
Okay, thank you. We are going to assist you with it. Don't worry. I don't want to lead you in respect of the linkage that you say Steyn said it was there between accused number 3 and Kelly Khumalo. Now, that is this. What Steyn that is what is contained in Steyn affidavit in page 41 of his affidavit. That's now Exhibit 01. Now, those are the links between the target. As you go down that page 41, Steyn then explains what is represented, what is contained in that diagram, schematic diagram there. But I'm not so sure whether you're able to relate to what you're saying, that Steyn told you that there was a link between accused number 3 and Kelly Khumalo in relation to what is contained in his affidavit. If you're able to do so, then you may proceed.
Kukhona lo mdwebo olapha ekhasini leka 41 la eza kukhonjwa khona ukuthi kukhona ukuxhumana phakathi koKelly Khumalo nomsolo wesithathu kule affidavit ka Colonel Steyn. Kodwa ngicela ukuthi ke wena ungichazele kabanzana ukuthi lokuxhumana kwenzeka kanjani.
My lord, no, I can't. I'm not an expert, and that is why I said this right from the beginning, that I'm very cautious of trying to interpret this document, because I'm not qualified to do so.
Angeke ngikwazi ukwenza lokho ngoba ngiyena uchwepheshe. Yikho ngithi mina kokudinga uchwepheshe ukuthi azosichazela ngalokho ngoba mina anginalo ulwazi olulingene ukuthi ngakwazi ukuthi ngichaze.
All I said, my lord, is that he gave me a report, and the report that he gave me, then he showed me in a statement, and it is here, links to targets. That's how far I can take it. In terms of interpretation, I'll be venturing in a terrain that I'm not qualified to do so, my lord.
Anginika kona mina wanginika umbiko ochazayo ukuthi kunokuxhumana ongikhombisa ukukhona ukuxhumana phakathi kwaloku naloku ukuthi ke kwenzeka kanjani. Hayi lapho ke angeke ngakwazi ukuthi ngichaze ngoba angiyena uchwepheshe.
Let me help you say. On page 41, it says links between the target, and there's this diagrammatic representation there. And then as you go down, it gives the analysis of what is represented in that diagram there. Maybe kindly please go down to the analysis. Or in other words, it's an analysis or a summary or information that is contained in the diagram in word form. Now, the first point says there's a contact between Kelly Khumalo, and then it lists that number and another cell phone number that allegedly belongs to Fisoguhle Ntuli Etinkani, not so. Do you see that?
Uyabona yini ukuthi khona la akho bisekhona ukuthi khona ukuthintana phakathi kwefoni kaKelly Khumalo nale kuthiwa ifoni kaFisoguhle Ntuli.
Do you see that?
My lord, I see that, but my difficulty with this, there is no heading or a sentence that says these bullet forms are interpreting what is contained above. And this is why I'm saying I don't want to venture into this, because then I'm being asked to speculate what these bullet forms are talking to in relation to this spider web. I am not the author of this, my lord, and otherwise then we'll be speculating and we might find ourselves not agreeing with Advocate Mnisi. Colonel Steyn, I think, will be in a better position to deal with this document because he's the author. I was simply proving that what I was saying when I said there was a link and I got a report from Colonel Steyn. Here is it. It is documented. The interpretation of this, my lord, Colonel Steyn is more qualified to deal with this part, my lord.
Mana sangathi uKenneth Steyn uyena ongakwazi ukuchaza kabanzana ukuthi lokho akubhalile lapha ezama ukuchaza ukuthi kwenzekani lapha kulowa mdwebo lo uyena ongachaza ngcono ukuthi kusho ukuthini lo. Mina ngiyena uchwepheshe, mina ngathola umbiko nje ochazayo ukuthi kwaba nokuxhumana ukudlula kuloko angikwazi ukuthi ngase ngoba ngizobe ngiqagela phela mase ngenza kanjalo.
Thank you, sir. What I am putting to you is exactly what Colonel Steyn said. Colonel Steyn said those bullet points represent an interpretation of what is contained in the diagrammatic representation there. So this is no speculation, that's what he said. Now, you are telling this court that he told you that there was a link between accused number 3 and Kelly Khumalo. And that is found in this link between the targets. Now I want us to go through that exercise to confirm what Colonel Steyn told you about the link that was between accused number 3 and Kelly Khumalo by using this information in his affidavit.
So for now,
As a court, please, my lord, I think my learned friend has sufficiently threshed out this issue, not only today, but also on Wednesday, just before we adjourned. The witness has said that Colonel Steyn's evidence is on record. I don't know whether counsel wants now Brigadier Gininda to interpret the evidence of Colonel Steyn. It is on record. It's now for the parties to argue that point, to see if there's support for the evidence of Brigadier Gininda. But it cannot be expected of him now to try and interpret the evidence of Colonel Steyn. He has repeatedly said he's not an expert. Colonel Steyn, he's the one who's an expert, and he has testified about these issues. We submit, my lord, that it's an unfair question to Brigadier Gininda to keep on probing him on the same issues, in respect of which he's already said he's not an expert.
As it please the court, my lord. This is not about interpretation. It is what is contained in Colonel Steyn's affidavit as raw as is. I'm not requesting this witness to interpret what is contained in Colonel Steyn's affidavit. I'm simply requesting him to read what Colonel Steyn is saying in his affidavit, whether, having read that, he is able to identify what he claims to have been said to him by Colonel Steyn, that there was a link between accused number 3 and Kelly Khumalo. In other words, I am trying to assist this witness to find a collaboration, using his term, between what he was told by Mr. Steyn and what Mr. Steyn says in his affidavit. This is more to help him than to help me. I am trying to do that. I'm trying to help the state, just to find a collaboration.
This is clear. Yes. He says he's not an expert, and that document was drafted by Colonel Steyn, who is the expert.
Yes,
And he says he doesn't want to speculate. But you, Mr. Mnisi, you,
yes,
and together with your learned colleagues,
yes.
you persistently told this witness, don't venture into the field. You are not an expert. When he tried to explain, for instance, about the DNA evidence,
Correct,
you told him, you're not an expert, it's not your job.
I remember, but
Yeah, you told him that.
he was
Now you say,
that.
now he must do the same very job of when you told him that he's not an expert. He mustn't venture. It's not his duty. His duty is just to present evidence.
Yes.
And that's it. Now he says he's not able to read that document because it involves expertise
I see,
by
madam.
Steyn.
But my lord,
Let's have progress, because he says he can't, and you are saying you are helping him.
yes, to help himself. I'm not saying to this witness, man, can you please explain to me what is happening here? I am saying to him, can you please read this, what is contained in Colonel Steyn's affidavit? I'm not requesting him to give an opinion, to make conclusions, to draw inferences. No, I'm simply requesting him to read this as raw as is, man. Yeah. I'm reminded, my lord, by my colleague, Mr. Ramusipeli, that on the same vein, that it would be argued that this witness cannot read this into the record because he's not an expert. Mr. Ramusipeli reminds me that at one point or the other during the proceedings in this matter, the witness was requested to read into record certain portions of the expert evidence in relation to the DNA. Now, I find it a little bit odd for this witness to come and say, no, I can't read that because I'm not an expert. He should have said the very same thing when he was requested to read to record the DNA results. And Mr. Ramusipili likes to say what is good for the gander should also be good for the goose. Whatever that means, it might mean what should then be happening here, my lord. But nonetheless, my lord, I understand the court to have ruled that this witness is not in a position to read into record here because of fear of speculation. I respectfully respect that ruling, my lord. Thank you, Brigadier Gininda. Let's proceed, but still on the same point. In the testimony of Mr. In the testimony of Colonel Steyn, there was no information because he based every aspect of his evidence on what is contained in this affidavit. Nothing came out when he said that there was a link between accused number 3 and Kelly Khumalo. If it told you that, then it was very disingenuous of him to have told you that, knowing that that is not contained in his affidavit. Do you understand?
Ubufakazi bukaColonel Steyn akukho lutho olutholakala lapha ku-affidavit yakhe oluchaza ukuthi ukuxhumana kukaKelly Khumalo nomsola wesithathu kuza kanjani.
My lord, I was not here when Colonel Steyn testified. What I'm saying, and this is what I said the last time, my lord, when we were dealing with page 41, I referred not to bullet points. The report I got from Colonel Steyn directed me to the spider web, and that's what I read the last time when it was beamed on the screen. And it is clear that the heading reads links between targets. Miss Kelly Khumalo is there. If you go down the web, you see the contact numbers of accused number 3. He's mentioned and even the number. That's how far I can take it. And to say, my lord, I cannot read a document, there's a difference between reading and interpreting. I can read, I said I don't have expertise to interpret what is contained here. That's why I said Colonel Steyn is best vested with the abilities to deal with this part, my lord.
Thank you, sir.
Akukho ke lana engingakuchaza kabanzana ngoba ngalokuxhumana phakathi ngoba mina engakwenza nje ukuthi mina ngavele ngasebenzisa lo mdwebo lapha ngakukhombisa la kuthiwa khona ukuxhumana phakathi kweyinamba ezithize nenamba yomsolo wesithathu nayo iyavela lapha. Kodwa ke mina la engafinyelela khona ukutheni ngafunda nje kuphela, angeke ngikwazi ukuchaza lokho engikufundayo. Kodwa ngakufunda lokho okukhona lapha kumbiko kaColonel Steyn. uColonel Steyn yena ongakwazi ukuthi achaze kangconywana ukuthi bezizama ukuthini.
Thank you, sir. For the sake of completeness, this is what Colonel Steyn said on page 41. He said he was able to identify that there was a contact between Kelly Kumalo and Fisoguhlenkani, and that is contained in the document, and he lists their cell phone numbers. That's number one. Number two, he says there was a communication between Fisoguhlentuli, in bracket Nkani, and Mtobisi Gadla Mnube. He also lists their cell phone numbers. Number three, he says there was a communication between Mtobisi Gadla Mnube, Carlos, Carlos, and Mabungu Ntuli. That is bullet number 3. Bullet number 4, he says he was able to identify, when he analyzed the calls or the phones or the information, the 205 information that was handed to him by you, that there was a communication between Mabungu Ntuli, in brackets 2, and Bongani Sandiso Ntanzi. He also listed their cell phone numbers. Bullet number 5, he says he was also able to find that there was a communication between Fisoguhli Ntuli, alias Nkani, and Muziga Ukalelwa September Sibia, who's accused number 1, also known as Muzi Stroke Ndo. That is his information relating to that diagrammatic representation. And as I read this, there's nowhere where he says, I was able also to find a link, just to avoid using the word communication, to find a link between Mtobisi Mnube, that is accused number 3, and Kelly Kumalo. Do you follow?
Lana uthe ukwazile ukuthi akhombise kubullet yakhe yokuqala ukuthi akhombise ukuxhumana kwabantu ukuthi khona ama contact amathathu akhona lapho axhumanayo. Wesibili wasekhuluma ngokukhuluma phakathi kokusofisa okuhlentula nogadla, waqhubeka wathi khona la ekhuluma khona ugadla Ncube noma Gungu Ntuli. Point yesine ukuthi wakwazi ukukhombisa ukuthi uMagungu wakwazi ukukhuluma noBongani, and kwase kubullet yesithathu owesihlanu wasekhombisa ukuthi kwakhona ukukhulumisana phakathi kwaFisoguhlentuli noSibiya, kodwa kukho la ekhombisa khona ukuthi kukhona ukuxhumana phakathi kukaMsolwa wesithathu nabanye.
My Lord, as I've said, and I think I dealt with this part, where I said my understanding there's a difference between linkages and communication. The bullet points that have been read refers to communication. And I've explained, my Lord, that my understanding of the report I got referred to linkages. And that is why, my Lord, I said the best person who can deal with this is really Colonel Steyn. Because if you look at the diagram above, where he says links to target, the number of Ms. Kelly Kumalo appears and the number of accused appears. But I'm not an expert to refer to, to interpret this. And he says links. Bullet points that are read to me refers to communication, and understand communication to be a call, whether received or made or whatever forms of communication direct. I understand links differently, but as I've said, my Lord, I'm not an expert, because I'll end up now misinterpreting this document, speculating where I was told I should not speculate in areas where I'm not an expert, and I would like to leave it at that, my Lord. As I said, Colonel Steyn can interpret this document. All I said, after he gave me the report, it is contained in this exhibit, because there is a clear it's even bolded, my lord. Links between target. Miss Kelly Kumalo is there and accused number 3 is there. If there's a dispute that what is contained here is not links, then Kenneth Steyn can be in a better position to explain that, my lord.
Njengoba bese ngishilo-ke nangaphambili ukuthi khona umehluko phakathi ukuxhumana nokukhulumisana. Ngoba mina indlela engiyizwisisa ngayo lento ukuthi uma kuthiwa i-communication noma ukukhulumisana kusho ukuthi-ke kukhona oshaya ucingo wathintana nomunye ngocingo. Kodwa-ke lapha kuleyo mdwebo lokhona lapha kuyabonakala ukuthi ngoba lana phela bekukhulunywa ngokuxhumana kuphela, kodwa kuyabonakala ukuthi kukhona ukuxhumana okukhona futhi kuyabonakala ukuthi nalumugqa lo obhaliwe lapha ukhombisa lo ukuxhumana, uyabona ukuthi ubhalwe waze wagcizelelwa ngoba kufuna kubonakale kahle ukuthi uzama ukuchaza ukuthi kukhona ukuxhumana ngoba ilona ifoni kaMsolo wesithathu iyakhonjiswa lana nesifoni kakhe likhumana iyakhonjiswa lapha. Kodwa-ke mina angeke ngakwazi ukuthi ngiqhubekele phambili ngithi ngiyazama ukuletha incazelo ezozwakala ngoba ngizogcina ngiqagela. Kungcono kubizwe uchwepheshe okuyena ongakwazi ukuchaza.
Thank you, madam. Thank you, Brigadier. Now, you, subsequent to taking over of the investigation by you, you requested that accused number 3's cell phone should be downloaded, and subsequent to that too, that was done. And there were pictures that are shown in those downloads of him wearing certain clothes on the 26th of October 2014. We have seen that many times here at court, not so?
Laphaya-ke emva ukuthi uthathe kube wena oqhubeka nalomsebenzi lo ukuphenya wacela ukuthi akudownload ifoni kaMsolo wesithathu nekulezi ithombe-ke ezaphuma lapho khona isithombe othi kuthiwa sikamhla 26 ku-October 2014 lapho egqoke izembatho ezithize.
Yes, when I was present, my lord, giving testimony, I've seen those pictures. When I was not, obviously, but I've got no doubt, as Advocate Mnisi is saying, that they may have been shown on numerous occasions, but I wouldn't know, I was not here. I can only refer to instances when I was in court, my lord.
Ngangingekho enkantolo ngesikhathi kukhonjiswa lezi zinto enkantolo, kodwa ngiyethemba ukuthi uba Mnisi lezi zinto akhuluma ngazo zikhona angakwazi ukusikhombisa.
Yeah, I'm referring to Exhibit S. I'm referring to Exhibit S. Thank you. I'm referring to Exhibit S. We can go to page 12 of Exhibit S. Page 12, 17 will do as well, but let's go to page 12.
Yes,
Thank you.
I have it in front of me, my lord.
Thank you. Now, one of the reasons why you say after the confession, after you found the content of the confession allegedly made by accused number 2, you were then you then formulated a viewpoint. I don't want to say you were satisfied. You then formulated a viewpoint that because the witnesses in their house identify the gun toter as somebody who was wearing a beige top, then you had a look at these pictures and then you got you formulated a view that that could have been accused number 3. Did I understand you to mean that?
Emva kokuthi ke uthole ke i-confession yomsolo wesibili nokuthi ulalele ke ubufakazi nolwazi walinikwa abasolwa nalokho okusho ofakazi ababengaphakathi endlini ukuthi umsolwa lo wayephethe isibhamu wayephethe ke wayegqoka ingubo enjani nowakubona lapha ethombeni kusho ukuthi lokho wakhola umsolwa wesithathu.
So, my lord, the witnesses, yes, so what I found, so I will regard this as one of the collaborations that I found, that was there, but it was a number of items or points that one found insofar as accused number 3. But insofar as clothing is concerned, other witnesses are saying beige or brown jacket and others are specific to say it was a khaki top. So yes, when I found this picture, I viewed this top, my lord, as a top and khaki, because there are other pictures where you can see accused 3 almost from the top to the bottom, where you can see that this is actually a top and there's a trouser underneath.
Ubufakazi obuningi obukhona esasebhekile akubona bodwa lo bufakazi bodwa obasikhomba ngobunye nje bufakazi esabusebenzisa ukuthi sikwazi ukufinyelela lesinqumo sokuthi uyasoleka umsolo wesithathu. Kodwa ke futhi kukhona nabanye abafeza phela umbala, abanye babethu beige, abanye biza eminye imbala, kodwa ke kukhona abagcina bethi cha lento ayigqokile top ewukhakhi kodwa ke sikhona ezinye izithombe ngazibheka ngathi mangibheka ngabona ukuthi lana cha itop kukhona la ifike iphelele khona uma usubona isithombe somuntu esiphelele kuyabonakala ukuthi lento le esibhekile lana kwakuyitop.
Thank you. Now, having received the information as contained in Exhibit S, which is in the form of these pictures that are depicting what accused number 3 is wearing in those pictures, did you go back to the witnesses who were in the house, who are describing what he was wearing, to them to find out if what is depicted in Exhibit S, in the photos in Exhibit S, which depict what accused number 3 is wearing, to find out if this is what they saw on the day in question?
Manje ke lapha ke emva ukuthi uthole ulwazi oluthola ngomsolo wesithathu nezithombe kwazikhipha lapha efonini yakho wambona waphinde wabuyela yini kuba kufakazi laba abakutshela ukuthi wayegqoke kanjani lo muntu abambona waphinde waphiyela yini kubona bakhombisa izithombe wathi na iyona yini lento nayibona?
No, my lord, but that point goes back to what we dealt with Advocate Mnisi, with the issue of an identity parade. Court will recall, my lord, that I said after the confessions were received from both accused, the name of Ms. Kelly Kumalo as a trigger point came in. Now, while you investigate, obviously, the people who are implicated, in that investigation, I also had to investigate the people who were inside the house to see if you can find a collaboration. You cannot now, sitting with that information that implicates, for example, Ms. Kelly Kumalo, and you run to her when you have not exhausted as to whether she's involved or not. You can't, my lord. That's not how it's done. So there was an investigation that needed to be done insofar as the people who were inside the house to see if, other than Ms. Kelly Khumalo as being mentioned, there are collaborations that you can find to exclude or to include them if they were involved or otherwise, my lord. So that was not done, and I think the exercise is because there was an investigation to establish whether there were links with Ms. Kelly Khumalo, but not only her, as to whether maybe other people who were inside the house could have played a role, with a common understanding of executing this offense. So that took time. By the time then we're exhausted and satisfied that these are the people we can rely on, that is when now the approach to Mr. Mthokozisi Twala and Tumelo Madlala then kicked in, my lord. So this was not done, and those were the reason why it was not done, my lord.
Lokho engizamchaza ukuthi lapha ku-ID parade kukhona okwavela khona ngoba ekuqhubekeni nokuthi siphenge kwavela negama likaKenny Khumalo, and futhi-ke thina-ke sasizama ukuthi nanoma sesitholile ukuthi kukhona ukuxhumana kuKenny Khumalo, sasifanele sitholisise ukuthi lokho kuxhumana ngaliphi, ngoba ababekhona endlini sasingezivele sithathe ngokuthi bayathinteka noma lalaba abanye bayathinteka noma bathintekile. Okufanele kube nophenyo oluphelele oluzozama ukuveza ukuthi bangena kanjani kule ndawo.
Yes, my lord, that's my answer.
Thank you, my lord. My lord, realize that we left with a minute or two before we go for a short adjournment. I would request that we adjourn such and then proceed after the short adjournment. It's 13 minutes past 11.
Okay, so
Thank you, ma'am.
15 minutes.